I have a question from Christopher, and he asks, how about covering the differences between redemption and salvation? So the redemption is they're both about what God has done and continues to do for us. But when we think in terms of redemption, it is the act of Christ's death on the cross, and of course his resurrection, that his passion and death and resurrection, that moment in time is the moment of redemption, when humanity is united with God, is redeemed, meaning that we're able to be free from sin, that sin and death no longer need have a hold on us during our lives as we live, but also at the time of our death. So in that God has redeemed us, that redemption took place with Christ's death on the cross. And so having been redeemed through Christ, then salvation is the living out of that redemption in our lives by our choice to draw close to God and to be in union with Him and to live the way that He has called us, so that we are being saved throughout our lives and would be saved because we have been living in union with Christ, drawing closer to our Heavenly Father all during our life. And it's the natural thing that at the time of our death, God acknowledges that, as He has all along the way, and we would be with God forever in heaven. So the redemption is something that first took place historically in that moment of the cross, but the results of it last then for all people. Actually, before that moment, it goes back to include all people who have ever lived, and it also includes anybody who will yet be born and live. In our Catholic tradition, we don't usually talk about when I was saved, but it's more about being saved by Christ. That in baptism is when we're sacramentally united with Christ in His death and in His resurrection, and that begins our life with God in terms of receiving the sacraments. And there may be moments in time, perhaps before baptism or after, when we experience a profound sense of union with Christ. And beyond, from that point on, we begin to live deliberately and wholeheartedly our life with Christ. But we do understand that being saved means that throughout our life we do want to be dedicated and deliberate about living in union with Christ and receiving the sacraments faithfully, serving others as Christ would call us to do so, to pray ever more deeply, and so that living in union with Christ faithfully and asking for forgiveness when we do sin at times, then that's all part of being saved, living out our life with God. And so we continue that throughout our lives, so that when we die, it's very natural then that God acknowledges our life and our fidelity, and we would live forever then with Him in heaven.